The XR camera rig, XR meaning extended reality, that is the continuum between augmented reality and virtual reality, is a very important concept that will help you develop these types of applications. Let's start with the very basics. A camera in Unity and other 3D engines is simply a device that captures and displays what's happening in the game world to your user. In normal 3D applications, users can control the camera by using the mouse, the keyboard, or sometimes the application itself controls the camera, for example in an ending sequence. That is an important difference with how things work in virtual reality and also in augmented reality. The user is in control of where the camera is looking at. And in fact, if there is also position tracking, they are also in control of the position of the camera, or at least the relative position of the camera, from a certain origin. So you cannot impose those things on your user in these types of applications. Also, in virtual reality, you actually have two cameras in the game, one for each eye. Luckily for us, when working in Unity, you normally just work with one camera, and the two cameras are created during runtime. So an important type of extended reality applications are stationary experiences. This is where the position of the camera is being fixed and you have control over the rotation. And also we have room scale experiences, which is where the whole space is being tracked and the position of the floor is known and you can move around. Now, this definition, there's no standard because I've seen different ways of talking about the same concepts. I have seen definitions of stationary experiences where there is a little bit of movement as well, although the position of the floor is not known. A common setup in Unity is that you would create an empty object called the XR camera rig, and then you would place your camera, and if you have hand track controllers, you would place those as well. If you are on a stationary experience, you have to give those a certain height from the floor. If you are on a room scale experience, the height is given by the tracking. What if you go into a vehicle? I said before that you cannot force the movement or the rotation of the user. Well, you can if you think of it in reality. Now, nobody can force you to look at a certain direction and nobody can force you to move. But if you go into a vehicle, the vehicle can move. So what you do is you put the whole camera rig inside of the vehicle or inside of the elevator or the aircraft. And then that vehicle can indeed move and it can indeed rotate. But the user is still in control as to what happens inside of the vehicle or inside of the lift. A better setup is to have the camera rig, but then also a floor offset containing object. This is another containing object, empty object. And the reason why we're doing this is because it is a little bit easier to work with the camera sometimes when the camera is placed at the origin. So we can have this inside object and then have the camera at the origin and have the hand controllers, if there are such, at a certain distance from the origin as well. When we have a room scale experience, the origin still needs to go on the floor because, like I said before, the position of the camera and all the other elements is given by the tracking, whether that's optical sensors or lighthouses or inside-out tracking. That is how it works. The other reason why this approach is preferable is because Unity already provides a script that lets you switch between stationary experience and room scale experience in the Unity editor. And that script uses the floor offset and lets you enter a value for the height. So that is why we will be using this approach. Although just using the camera rig without offset also works, it just doesn't give you that flexibility. The way that this will work in Unity, which we will be seeing in the next lesson, is like this. You have the camera rig, just an empty object, which contains everything else. The camera rig is at ground floor. Then you have the floor offset, the head, left hand, and right hand. And what we will be using, so this will be covered in a lot of detail, I'm only mentioning it here just to give you a hint of what's coming, is the tracked post driver component, which is a Unity component that can make a game in your scene be tracked by either the headset or the controller. So this is used and works in most big main platforms these days, which is amazing because it didn't exist only some time ago. So to summarize what we've learned, in extended reality, the user controls the camera rotation and the relative position, if there's position tracking, relative from some origin. The XR rig is simply a container for your track devices. That's all it is. And you can add this floor offset container, which can make it easier to work across platforms, or if you want to have your camera placed at the origin. Lastly, we have the tracked pose driver. It's a Unity component used for XR tracking of different controllers and headsets. So we'll be using that in the next few videos. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next lesson.